Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Jason Gregerson. This video is we're going to learn how to store values in Mathematica. The big idea is that we store values using the equal sign. This takes the value on the right and stores it to the name on the left. So if I start a new cell and I type a equals 5 and I hit shift enter to evaluate it, it's taken the number 5 and stored it to the letter A. If I add b equals 2 in this cell and evaluate that, I've now taken the number 2 and stored it to the letter B. So once I've stored these values, I can do all kinds of operations with them. I could take 2a plus 3, for instance, evaluate that and get a number 13. If I took a times b, I'd have to be a little bit careful, because if I just type those variables next to each other, it thinks I'm using a new parameter called ab. So to multiply two values, I'd have to put a space or an asterisk behind them to get that value. But here I can multiply a times b. I can also use them not just in computation, but as any parameter inside of some function. So for instance, if I wanted to plot 2x over some range of values, maybe from x equals -a to a, I could also do that. And here's plotted that over the range -5 to 5. So we can store values and then we can use those values. And one of the nice features about that is if I want to change a parameter value, I can just change the definition. And if I reevaluate the cells that I'm using that parameter in, they will adjust accordingly. So it lets me quickly change a value that I might be using extensively through some code. Okay, so now I've changed that value from a equals 5 to a equals 9 just by changing that piece of the cell and reevaluating the cell. I could also clear that value and store nothing to it. So I use the clear command to clear the stored value in A. Now if I run that, it's erased the definition of A, and so now if I try to run the next cell, it won't have any value stored for A, so the plot will return an error and it won't be able to calculate A times B. Now you should note that if I had stored value like this and I ran that cell to get those outputs, just deleting that definition of A equals B, even if I reevaluate that cell, does not change that stored definition of A. So I really do need to use the clear command to erase values. Even if I delete the cells that contain their definitions, that value is still stored into the letter A. That's something to be careful about. All right, what else? Well, we don't have to store just number values to these letters. We can just store any object in Mathematica. So here I've created the plot of 2x over some range of values. I could store that to plot, for instance. And if I run that, I could then go to a new cell and type out plot, and if I evaluated plot, it would once again kick out that plot. So a couple things to note from this example is that one, I can use anything for the name of my stored value. I can use plot, for instance, or function name, or whatever I want to be. And in general, it's good practice to use a name that makes sense. The other thing that's important to see here is that I can store a graphic object to a name. Let's jump down here to our summary points. So we've seen that we can store values using an equal sign. We can see that we're not limited to a single letter variable name. If we multiply variables together, we need a space or an asterisk between them. We've also seen how to use the clear command to erase stored values. And we can assign objects other than numbers to a variable name. Lastly, I'll leave you with this pro tip here. And the pro tip just says that we can actually store more than one thing at one time. In Mathematica, we use curly brackets if we want lists of objects. So in this case, if I want to store a list of values, I want to store values to A and B, I can set these two lists equal to each other. And if I run that, it will store both of those values. And so now I can see that if I run this next cell with the A and B in there, I get those return values. Now you should note that when I'm doing this, those two lists have to be the same length. If I run this next cell, C and D will not be defined. So to define things in lists, those lists have to be the same size. All right, so that concludes this video. Thanks for your time.